The homeowners association, they slapped me with a fine, a monstrous, ridiculous fine, for what they called water warehousing, screaming my family's old spring-fed pond was a ticking time bomb, a flood risk to their perfect little planned community. And the new HOA president, a woman I'd soon come to call Crestwood Carla, she served me the final notice herself, her lips thin as paper, demanding, "Release the water. Drop the damn gates now, Mr. Sterling, or you will be held personally liable." But what she never knew, what nobody in that pristine, pretentious neighborhood knew, was that their entire case, their thousands of dollars in fines, was built on a lie, a forgery. And she certainly never thought I'd actually call her bluff and do exactly what she demanded. So I did. I dropped the gates just as they requested, and watched their $1 million investment turn into a muddy, spectacular swamp. Because when a bully hands you the perfect weapon to dismantle their power, you don't walk away. You use it. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below, because trust me, you won't believe the footage I caught on camera. It all started on a Tuesday morning. Crisp and clear, the kind of day I usually just enjoyed with a second cup of coffee on the porch. But the mailman delivered a special kind of poison that day. It came in a stiff cream-colored envelope with the words Oakwood Summit Homeowners Association embossed in that fancy gold script. I don't live in Oakwood Summit. My land, all 35 acres of it, sits just above them. A piece of the original landscape my great-grandfather settled back in '52. The HOA didn't even exist then. It was just woods and a creek. But there it was, an official-looking letter addressed to me, Silas Sterling. Inside, the first thing I saw was the number, $3,200. The letter, signed by Carla Vance, the new HOA president, accused me of unauthorized water storage. It claimed the retention pond, the one I've maintained since I built it myself back in '89, was now a critical hydraulic hazard. Clipped to the back were photos, high-angle shots of my gate and my old workshop, clearly taken by a drone flown over my private property, without so much as a phone call. I'm a retired steel fabricator, 20 years in the Navy before that. I believe in rules, but I also believe in doing things the right way. That pond isn't a hazard. It's a spring-fed system I designed and built myself, all to county code, with blueprints approved back in 1990. It has protected the downstream land from flash floods for 30 years, and this letter was demanding the opposite. Carla Vance, I'd heard about her, an ex-real estate shark who got elected on a platform of elevating community standards. They called her Crestwood Carla at the local diner. She was known for measuring the height of people's petunias. Now it seemed her kingdom was expanding onto my land. My first thought wasn't rage. It was just tiredness. This was a paperwork problem, and paperwork problems have solutions. I called the county. Got a hold of Dale, the senior water inspector, a good man, been on the job longer than me. He practically chuckled over the phone. Silas, that pond of yours is grandfathered in 6 ways to Sunday. We have the records right here. Don't worry about them. They can't touch you. That was the glimmer of hope. Just a new HOA president trying to throw her weight around without doing her homework. So, I scanned my original county-approved blueprints, the last inspection report from 2008, and attached them to a polite, professional email to the HOA board. I figured that would be the end of it. A simple mistake cleared up with facts. I was dead wrong. The response came 2 days later, short, dismissive, and it hit me like a sucker punch. Mr. Sterling, the documents you provided are irrelevant. Our records indicate your operational permit expired in 2012. You are in violation. That one sentence lit a slow, cold fire in my gut. Expired? The county didn't issue expiring permits for a private retention system like mine. I looked closer. They included a permit number, WSC 9892D. It looked official enough, but something felt off. I pulled out the old manila folder labeled Pond and Well, and there it was, my actual construction approval number from 1990. It wasn't even in the same format. The number they sent me was a ghost. They had made it up. My tiredness turned to cold, hard anger. This wasn't a mistake anymore. This was a lie. Just then my phone buzzed. My nephew Jesse, he's a sharp young firefighter and good with tech, sent me a link to the Oakwood Summit Neighborhood Facebook group. It was anonymous, but I knew exactly where it came from. Drone footage, the same high-angle view set to some dramatic, scary music. The caption read, "Uphill landowner hoarding water, putting our children and homes at risk. When will the county stop this negligence?" The comments were a cesspool of fear. They were demanding immediate action. I sat there, the fake permit number burning in my mind. This wasn't about water safety. It wasn't about permits. This was a coordinated attack. Carla Vance didn't want compliance. She wanted my land, or at least control over it. She was manufacturing a crisis, forging documents, turning my new neighbors against me to get what she wanted. It was personal, and it was escalating fast. The Army taught me a few things. First, never go into a fight without good intelligence. Second, use your enemy's own rulebook against them. Carla loved rules and paperwork, so I decided to bury her in them. I went back to the county and showed Dale, the inspector, the fake number. He squinted. "Silas, I've been here 30 years. I've never seen a permit number formatted like this. It's bogus." We spent 2 hours in the archives. We found nothing. The permit they cited didn't just expire. It never existed. A week later, a thick manila envelope arrived. Their response to my records request. Most of it was useless, blacked out with marker. Redacted, they called it. But they got sloppy. Tucked in the middle was a printout of the fake permit form itself. A crude forgery. Looked like something made in Microsoft Word. But the most damning part was the signature at the bottom. A messy scroll above the typed name of a county engineer, a man named Chuck Peterson. I knew Chuck. He retired years ago. A quick check on the county website confirmed it. Chuck Peterson had his retirement party in 2008. The document the HOA was using to find me was dated 2010, signed by a man who hadn't worked there for 2 years. That was the receipt. But there was more. On the back of one redacted page, they forgot to black out a single email from Carla to another board member. Subject line, "The uphill problem." I read it twice, my blood running cold. "We can't have water pooling up there. It's a mosquito risk and a lawsuit waiting to happen," she wrote. And then came the sentence that told me everything. "He's not even in the HOA. Let's push hard." It was never about a flood risk. It was a power grab. I wasn't one of her subjects, so she was manufacturing a crisis to force me under her thumb. The anger was back, but this time it was calm. It was focused. I called Jesse. We spent the next Saturday walking the property line with a survey map. My retention gate was a full 15 feet inside my property line, far from their jurisdiction. Jesse flew his drone straight up, camera pointed down, showing my property stakes and the HOA's manicured lawns in one clean shot. He overlaid the county plat map on the video, drawing a big red digital line. No argument. The proof was right there. I wasn't done. My neighbor's son, Travis, a smart young man studying civil engineering, ran rainfall models and runoff calculations for me. He wrote up a 2-page hydrology report that confirmed my little pond was actually reducing peak water flow to their neighborhood, not increasing it. He concluded that removing my gate, as the HOA demanded, would cause significant and predictable downstream erosion. In other words, a flood. I now had a file. It was thick with facts, photos, permits, public records, and a certified engineering report. Carla started a war of paperwork, thinking she was the only one with an army. She had no idea I was bringing my own artillery. The 6th week of this nonsense started with a knock on my door. It was a courier, holding a clipboard and a stiff, oversized envelope. He asked me to sign. The paper inside was crisp and heavy. Across the top in bold red letters, "Final notice of violation. Immediate compliance required," it ordered. "Drain retention pond. Remove all artificial barriers." And then the line designed to scare an old man into submission. "Failure to comply will result in maximum daily fines and holding you, the property owner, personally liable for any and all future flood events affecting the Oakwood Summit community." It was signed, dated and notarized. They had even paid extra for a fancy gold seal. I read it, and a strange calm washed over me. This wasn't a threat anymore. It was a gift. They had finally done it. They had put their stupid illegal demand in writing, signed it, and had it hand-delivered. It was the single dumbest thing Carla Vance could have possibly done. Called Jesse. We needed a witness. He brought his small black camera, a GoPro. He clamped it to a high branch on an old oak tree about 30 feet away, giving us a clear 24/7 view of the gate's release mechanism. A perfect impartial witness. My next step was the critical one. I called Dale at the county again. Dale, I've received a final notarized order from the HOA demanding I remove the retention gate. Says I'll be liable if I don't. I heard him sigh. Silas, my official advice is this: document everything. If you are complying with a direct written order from them, you need to prove it. Once you comply with a written directive from a governing body, your liability for the outcome of that compliance is zero. The liability transfers to them. They ordered it, they own it. That was the green light. That was the legal shield I needed. I typed up my own notice. Per the attached notarized directive from the Oakwood Summit HOA dated November 1st, the retention gate on this property is being opened to allow for the free flow of water. This action is being taken under duress and to comply with their final notice. I printed out 10 copies. I nailed one to a sturdy stake right next to the dam gate for anyone to see. I mailed copies certified mail to the HOA, the county, and my old Army buddy who became a lawyer. Everything was in place. I walked up to the gate with a heavy 3-foot-long pipe wrench. I fit the wrench onto the big nut on the release screw. I gave it a full turn, then another. I cranked it back the other way, lifting the heavy sluice gate at the bottom of the dam. I didn't throw it wide open. That would be reckless. That's what they expected. Instead, I opened it just 2 inches. It was enough. A small, steady stream of clear spring water, about as thick as my arm, began to flow out of the pond and down the natural runoff channel toward their perfectly manicured green belt. It wasn't a flood. It was a promise. On the drive back to the house, I turned on the radio. The weatherman was talking about a big system moving in from the west. The first showers were light, but by next week they were calling for 4 to 6 inches of rain over a couple of days. I sat on my porch, watched the little stream disappear into the trees, and waited. All I had to do now was let them have exactly what they asked for. Gravity would do the rest. The next few days were quiet. Then the HOA doubled down on their stupidity. I watched through my binoculars as a commercial landscaping crew arrived. They weren't planting flowers for their spring garden fete they had planned. They were there to scalp the earth. The green belt was bordered by a thick 30-foot-wide patch of native grasses and cattails, a natural buffer that soaked up water like a giant sponge. To Carla, it just looked messy. They leveled the entire buffer zone in under an hour. By the time they were done, the greenbelt was a smooth, bare ramp of dirt leading directly to their storm drain. Jesse's little GoPro recorded every second of it. They had just bulldozed their own last line of defense. By Wednesday, my steady little stream of water hit that bare dirt, carrying loose topsoil with it. It pooled around the storm drain at the bottom of the field. The problem was the drain itself. It was almost completely blocked with last fall's leaves, grass clippings, and trash. They had spent thousands on landscapers to make the place look pretty, but hadn't spent $50 to clean their own drain. The puddle grew into a small swamp. Thursday brought the next complication. A water company truck sped into the subdivision. My neighbor told me what happened. One of the new homeowners, the one with the huge house at the end of the cul-de-sac, was having a massive in-ground pool installed. The contractors had hit a water main. For 3 hours, thousands of gallons of chlorinated water gushed down the street, right into the same overloaded clogged storm drain. The muddy puddle in the green belt was now a veritable lake, a perfect storm of their own making. That evening, the light rain started. "It's time," I said. Jesse sent his drone up. The view on his controller screen was damning. We saw the steady, clear stream coming from my property. We saw it hit the barren green belt. We saw the massive swamp that had swallowed the entire field and was now creeping up the lawns of the houses that bordered it. Jesse flew the drone lower, hovering directly over the blocked culvert. He didn't just have a video. He created a full-blown report. He put my GoPro footage of the landscapers destroying the buffer zone side by side with the drone footage of the resulting flood. He added titles with dates and timestamps. He downloaded the rainfall data from the National Weather Service and overlaid it on the screen. The final video was 10 minutes long. It wasn't an angry rant. It was a professional engineering assessment. That night, with the real rain starting to come down harder, I opened my email. I attached Jesse's video file. I addressed it to Dale, the county water inspector. The message was short. It was only 5 words long. I complied. They didn't. Regards, Silas Sterling. I hit send. Then I turned off the computer, sat on my covered porch, and listened to the rain. By dawn, the rain had softened to a steady drizzle. It was Saturday, the day of their garden fete. I didn't need binoculars. The entire HOA greenbelt was gone. In its place was a shallow brown lake stretching from one end of the common area to the other. The blocked culvert had failed completely. The water had breached the decorative curb and was now a sheet of muddy water flowing across the lawns of the 3 houses at the bottom of the hill. I could see the water line halfway up their pristine white vinyl fences. It was a disaster. It was, I have to admit, a beautiful sight. My phone rang just after 10 a.m. The voice on the other end was anything but calm. It was a shriek, high-pitched and full of rage. It was Carla Vance. "You did this," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You flooded us. You deliberately tried to destroy our homes. We're ruined, Mr. Sterling. I'm calling the sheriff. We are going to sue you for everything you have." I took a slow sip of my coffee. I let her finish her tirade. When she finally paused to take a breath, I spoke. My voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Carla," I said, using her first name for the first time. "I just followed your orders. You sent me a notarized letter demanding I open the gate. You have my certified letter confirming I did exactly what you asked. You got it all in writing. You wanted the water, now you have it." There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. She sputtered for a moment, muttered something about her lawyers, and then the line went dead. An hour later, I heard a different kind of buzz in the air. It was a county drone, the kind they use for emergency assessments, hovering over the new swamp, methodically scanning. I knew Dale had gotten my email. This was out of my hands now. It was a county matter. The local news van showed up around 3. A young reporter stood in front of the flooded backyards. A few residents looked distraught. Then, one older gentleman, a man who'd lived there since the beginning, stepped in front of the camera. "This ain't no mystery," he said, his voice firm. "We've been telling that board for years about that drain. They ignored us. They were too busy fining people for leaving their garden gnomes out. This was always coming. The foundation of Carla's little kingdom was washing away right there on the 5 News. It wasn't my Springwater that flooded them. It was their own arrogance. I had just opened the gate they told me to open. They had done the rest." The fallout was swift. The HOA's private Facebook group exploded. The emergency board meeting was called for Tuesday night. I wasn't invited, but Jesse had sent his video to one of the board members, a quiet man named Frank who seemed reasonable. My neighbor told me about the meeting. It started with Carla, clipboard in hand, launching into a prepared speech about my reckless and malicious actions. She waved her final notice letter in the air, claiming it was proof of my non-compliance, not her order. She demanded the board approve an immediate lawsuit against me. But then Frank stood up. He walked to the front of the room, plugged his laptop into the big screen TV, and without saying a word, he played Jesse's video. The room fell silent. For 10 minutes, the residents of Oakwood Summit watched the undeniable truth unfold. They saw the footage of their own landscapers destroying the natural water buffer. They saw the close-up of the hopelessly clogged culvert. And they saw my small, steady stream of water being turned into a flood by their own series of mistakes. The video ended with a clear shot of the notarized letter from Carla, her signature right next to the words, "Remove all artificial barriers." When the screen went black, the silence was deafening. People started shouting questions, not at me, but at her. Why was the culvert never cleaned? Who approved the landscaping work? The board called for an immediate vote. The motion wasn't to sue me. It was to suspend Carla Vance as president, pending a full investigation. The vote was 3-1. The very next day, the official letter arrived from the county. The county had issued a total of $95,000 in fines, penalties for the illegal destruction of a protected wetland buffer, for the failure to maintain their stormwater system, and for non-compliance with an old retaining wall order. The county had taken all my proof and turned it into a weapon. The final nail in the coffin came from the county sheriff's office. They announced they were opening a criminal investigation into document falsification and forgery, with Carla Vance named as the primary person of interest. Her carefully constructed world of rules and regulations had crumbled because she had built it on a foundation of lies. The last I saw of her was on a cell phone video someone posted online. She was storming out of a second community meeting, shouting at residents, a wild, cornered look in her eyes. The power was gone. All that was left was the raw, sputtering anger of a bully who had finally been put in her place. All because she signed a piece of paper, and I was smart enough to do exactly what it said. After the storm, there's a certain kind of quiet. The water on their side of the fence receded, leaving behind a brown, muddy scar. The circus left town. My part in the drama was over, but my work wasn't. The first thing I did was close my damn gate, letting the pond slowly refill. Then I got to work building a proper modern overflow channel. It wasn't something the county required, but it was something I required of myself. I hired Travis, the young engineering student, to help me design it. We built a secondary spillway, wider and shallower than the old one, lined with heavy river rock. It was an elegant, simple solution that would handle a 100-year flood event without breaking a sweat. The resolution for them was a lot more expensive. The HOA's insurance company refused to cover the damages, citing gross negligence. The board had to levy a massive special assessment on every homeowner to pay the county fine and fund the settlements. The community's big project was no longer a new pickleball court. It was paying for their own incompetence. Carla Vance and her husband sold their home at a loss and were gone before the end of the season. One evening, a few weeks later, I was out checking the new spillway when I saw a car pull up to my gate. It was Frank, the board member who had played Jesse's video at the meeting. He wasn't a man comfortable with confrontation. He just nodded toward my pond. "It's looking good, Silas," he said. We stood in silence for a moment, listening to the birds. "Look," he said finally, meeting my eyes. "I know things got ugly. On behalf of the new board, I wanted to thank you." I must have looked confused, he continued. "That retaining wall, the one the county flagged, the engineers said it was one big storm away from a catastrophic failure that would have taken out half a house. Your little flood exposed it. It forced us to finally fix it. It forced us to fix everything. You didn't ruin our community," he said. "You saved us from a much bigger disaster." He stuck out his hand and I shook it. It was the only apology I ever got, and the only one I needed. My life is quiet again, just the way I like it. My pond is clear and calm. The water level is exactly where it should be. But when the new folks in those big houses at the bottom of the hill walk their dogs, they sometimes look up here and give a little nod. It's a nod of respect. All I did was follow orders. Sometimes that's all it takes when the orders are dumb enough. Tell me, what's the craziest thing your HOA has ever tried to fine you for? Do you think I was right to comply with their order, knowing what the outcome would be? Or was I legally responsible, even with the notarized letter? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.